Joining us this morning, Democratic Congressman of Maryland. He is the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee. Nice to see you, sir, as always.
Good morning.
Before we get to Governor Romney's remarks about the 47%, let's talk a little bit about the president, because watching him there in that campaign speech, as he was sort of, on the campaign trail, much more energy than he had in the actual debate. 67 million people watched that debate, and the president's performance, as you well know, was judged very lacking. Dana Milbank from the Washington Post said this: Obama was out of practice, unprepared to be challenged. The White House had supposed that his forays into social media would replace traditional presidential communication. His skills atrophied. He was ill-equipped. All that is not a great review. Here's Eugene Robinson from the Washington Post. It wasn't a disaster from Obama's point of view, but it was a bad night and a missed opportunity. Even if the debate had been no better than a draw, Obama could have spent the rest of the campaign running out the clock. Now Romney and the Republicans have a new spring in their step. They believe they can win. What was the impact, do you think, of that debate?
I think the limited polling that's already been done is that the impact has been very, very limited. The fact is that this president came out and he laid out very carefully his plan for the future and what he's done. And again, you talk about Etch-a-Sketch. We don't know what Mr. Romney is about. On the one hand, he talked for the last 18 months about a $5 trillion tax cut. And the next thing you know, abracadabra, is gone, an Etch-a-Sketch moment. Again, I think this president laid out what he wants to do with regard to helping this country, the middle class, do better. Making sure that we have jobs, making sure we repair our infrastructure, and preparing our young people for this global society. And so,
let me just say this, so that I'm going to stop you there for a second, if I may, because you started by saying the limited polling shows that it didn't have much of an impact, and I don't know what limited polling you're talking about, because one, I don't think enough time has passed for the real polls to take place, and the polling that was done immediately, at least CNN's polling, done immediately after the debate by people who watched the debate, it was devastating. The numbers had completely flipped, and a very wide, multiple point margin for Governor Romney. So I think that you're mistaken on that front.
Well, based upon what I've understood, said that it's been very limited. But we'll see. We won't really see the full impact until a few days from now. But I think it'll be negligible. But the fact still remains is that we have a situation where Mr. Romney came forth, and you were asking Mr. Gingrich, my good friend, about...
I'm always worried when an elected official starts calling someone a good friend, because I know what's coming next.
Well, he is a good friend. But the fact is, he's absolutely wrong. You have a situation where you had Mr. Governor Romney sitting in the most comfortable position he could possibly be in, along with his $50,000 donors, and he said basically that 47% of our population was dependent, and they were victims.
The president did not raise that in the debate. Now, actually, the debate might have been a good opportunity to bring that up, one would imagine.
Well, the fact is that you see Mr. Romney feels, he knows that that was extremely damaging, and he knows that no matter what he says, that image, him sitting with the people drinking their wine and having a nice time, and him saying that about 47% of the population, by the way, our constituents, our veterans, and our seniors and other folks, and hardworking Americans that I saw at 5:30 this morning getting on the early bus to go to work, that's what he said about them. And so he knows that no matter what he says, it is overshadowed by that. And so I think that what he is trying to do is to come back and say, you know what? That probably the most damaging thing I have done in this election is that, and let me go and try to straighten it out. And you cannot straighten it out. I believe that that's what he believes.
I need to ask you a quick question about this letter that you've now written to True the Vote. Part of it says this: some have suggested your true goal is not voter integrity, but voter suppression against thousands of legitimate voters who traditionally vote for Democratic candidates. Exactly what are you alleging?
What I'm saying is that True the Vote has consistently challenged the voting rights of legitimate voters. I believe very strongly that voting is a fundamental right. It is not something that should be limited to a few people, a privilege should be limited to the few. And that we must address anybody who tries to deny anybody that right to vote. And I consider it criminal. I can consider it unpatriotic. and I think and highly offensive. And basically what True the Vote has done is it targets, for example, in Ohio, those districts where President Obama was successful, 9 out of 13, and they challenged legitimate voters over and over again. And even the Ohio Secretary of State has made it clear that this is really on the verge of illegitimate activity. As a matter of fact, he said it's like the boy who called wolf.
We reached out to True the Vote for their reaction to your allegations against them, and we have not heard back from them. I know that...
And you probably won't, because the head of True the Vote has already said she wants a Republican administration.
We will see what they say when they get back to us. Congressman Elijah Cummings is with us this morning. Nice to see you, sir. Thank you for talking with us.